Welcome to Wisdom on the Front Porch. Subscribe, ring the bell, like, and share the wisdom. Pull up a chair and join us with today's guest.
Hey, thank you for pulling up a chair on Wisdom on the Front Porch today, and I'm so glad you're here to join us. And we have a guest. Joe is here. He's pulling up a chair too. So, Joe, I'm going to let you introduce yourself to the audience a little bit.
Well, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here with you this afternoon. Hey, everyone. My name's Joe Wyrwas. Grew up in Maryland, live in Baltimore, and I am a leadership coach and education specialist. I love partnering with people to help them get to the next level of leadership.
That's awesome because everybody as an entrepreneur wants to reach that next level. It's what we're going for. We're doing what we're doing, and then we want to keep getting better at it.
Exactly, exactly. We have all our hopes and dreams and goals, and it's how do we get there? And I love partnering with people to help them achieve what they're setting out for as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's nothing better than that. So, how did you get started in this yourself?
Sure. So I love always starting with the story way back in high school, where I always saw myself as the quiet, shy kid that was smart, but that was about it. And I attended a 10-day leadership development program after my sophomore year of high school. And it was foundational to who I am even to this day. I learned that I could be a leader. I could do more than I ever thought that I could be. And so I got to flip the script in college and then created leadership development programs for other undergrad and grad students at the
Wow.
University of Maryland. Go Terps. And since then, both in my career as a tech consultant, I've gotten to put that leadership development in practice as well as with my own business, Wiser with Joe, where I get to again partner one-on-one as well as with teams and groups to bring leadership up to that next level for them.
That is awesome. And it's awesome that you found that in high school. I mean, so many times we're trying to figure out what we want to do. I see that with my granddaughter. She knows what she's always prepared to do. And
Sure.
now there's other doors that are opening up, and it's like, well, maybe I should look at these other things. And it's, we don't want to discourage her because maybe one of those other things really is what she's supposed to do. But at the same time, we don't want her to forget all that she's worked so hard for at this point. Um, so
Yeah.
it was really great that you had a program like that. And then you were able to use that to help students in college figure out what was going on and how to be leaders. I mean, that's just amazing. Um, so how did
Yeah.
you go from that getting into helping entrepreneurs get to where they want to go?
Yeah, so also in college, I was part of a 2-year entrepreneurship living learning program. And
Oh,
so
wow.
I got the education piece way back myself. And it's as most entrepreneurs and business owners know, there's so much overlap of leadership, both leading yourself and leading others. And for me, it was, oh, this is a natural extension progression of all these different skills really build on top of each other. And so, with working with entrepreneurs, working with growing businesses, it's all about, hey, how do we lead others? But then also, a lot of times, how do we lead ourselves? How do we overcome some of those self-limiting beliefs? How do we figure out how we can create better processes, both for our company and how we operate to be more effective? And so, just as I was out in the tech world and also out in the nonprofit world, I recognized it's the same challenges over and over. And I said, hey, I've kind of had some experience not only overcoming them myself, but also I've been on the actual education side, the coaching side, and I can take those lessons learned, I can take that experience and the education piece, blend it all together and help you get to that next level as well.
That sounds really great. So, as an entrepreneur, I come to you, it's like, okay, I need to be better at what I'm doing. How do you go about doing that? Do you start with finding out what they've been doing so far and what's working, what's not working, or what's the process?
Yeah, exactly that. I love asking questions. It's, hey, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. I'm going to really dive deep and get to know you. And I really believe in my core philosophy is know your weaknesses, but focus on your strengths. So
Mhm.
know where your weaknesses are really a hindrance, that they're, as a person, really bringing you down in how you interact, as a business owner, really impacting how your company runs as your bottom line, or as a leader, how people like to or not interact with you. And if they're so bad, yeah, let's get those up a couple levels. But at the end of the day, it's our strengths that get us from good to great to exceptional and allow us to become that best entrepreneur, that best leader, that best person. And so I love to do an inventory of both of those things and then start figuring out, what are you doing well already? What can we put more jet fuel on those things and get you to the moon, because you know you can do even better with those things. But then again, of course, figuring out, are there some things that are completely broken in your business, in your world, that we do need to spend some time on too. So I'm a very systematic person, really starting at that foundational level, starting at the why, starting with a bunch of questions that I work through with leaders and business owners, and then getting to those next tactical things we could do on either ends of those spectrum.
Wow, that's really amazing. Because a lot of people don't think that anything's broken, but they might think
Mhm.
everything's broken and always trying to fix stuff that doesn't need to be fixed, or not recognizing that there's things that do need fix. They
Yeah.
just the way
And
it's
it's a
always
it's a
been. So why would I
balancing act.
change?
Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah. So, what would be an example of maybe well, let me ask this first. What size of entrepreneurs do you work with? Do you just work with beginning entrepreneurs, with entrepreneurs that are making six figures or more? Where do they fit in there?
Sure. So typically I have two sweet spots. One, it's that business owner that wants to get to that next level, but they haven't really got past that solo operator, or I only have a couple employees. And what
Okay.
I found a lot of times with those individuals, they again either don't have the systems in place to be able to grow, or they don't really even understand how to work as a leader to grow that business, to get people
Oh,
aligned with their vision. And so a lot of that is actually like the personal skills, the things that they need to have kind of dive into, because as entrepreneurs, we want to say it's our way or the highway, we're always right. But when you start growing, that's not going to be the most successful to get that team along with you in your vision. The other
right.
sweet spot I love is when it's a mid-sized company. So we're talking 10, 20 people to 100, where
Okay.
now the CEO has started to build a C-suite. That owner is saying, okay, I might even start needing to have middle managers. And she recognizes that they don't have the time or the skills or the resources to get those other people up to the next level that they expect. They know something's off. They know that they're not quite operating at the level that they want and they need, but again, they can't really get them there themselves. And so that's where I come in and really like working more holistically with a team, with an executive team, where it's okay, what can we do better together? What can we build together to get to that next level?
Yeah. So do you ever have top level leaders? I'll use that word for for now.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
Yeah, top level leaders who say it's everybody else's problem. I know what I want. I know what the company wants, but nobody seems to be able to figure it out. So help them figure it out. Is that is
Th- That is
that
that is definitely a common challenge out in the world. The cool thing about entrepreneurship is we get to pick who we typically work with, particularly as a service-based industry. And so for me, I'm looking for alignment of clients that actually care about growth, not only growth in the size of a company, but internal growth, willingness to grow themselves. And so there are people with that scenario that are kind of both ends, where no problems whatsoever. It's not me, it's everyone else. And they're not willing to grow. And so for those type of people, I'm not willing to work with them, because there's that misalignment of values and misalignment of willingness to have a partnership to work together. But there are some people that say, hey, look, I'm willing to do this whole growth thing, but I really don't think it's my fault. It's definitely my team. That gives me the opening, that window to say, okay, there is some alignment. There's definitely some misalignment with what you're thinking and feeling, but you're open to conversations about growth yourself. And so for those, it's a trust building process. I
Mm,
can't come in on day one and say, hey, by the way, yeah, you're the problem, not them. He's going to kick me out of their office. I'm not going to get paid.
right.
And so you have to ask, again, those questions to understand the broader problem and understand the broader thinking pattern for that leader. And when you start getting there, you can then start asking little pointed questions to get them thinking in new ways. And not always, it takes longer sometimes than others, but typically they'll get there and say, oh, I get why when I'm in that meeting, no one on my team ever actually asks questions. But then when I'm not in that meeting, I hear that there's like great, rich conversations. And when they have those aha moments, and normally it's you try to show it to them, but not actually point it out. That's
Okay.
when you bring the leader to the next level and they recognize, okay, there's room for me to grow here.
That's really great. Do you ever have a leader in the company who is just going at it full bore? The company's growing, it's making demands, but the people are, I shouldn't say making demands, it's making profits. It's just really reaching up higher levels, going into better places, but the team itself is backing them up, but there's a lot of overturn in the company.
Mm,
So, how do you approach something like that? Because obviously something's not aligning right if
yeah.
they're having a high turnover of employees.
Yeah. And that's one of the normal number one flags that we
Oh,
can point to that, hey, look, your retention rate, maybe compared to industry or compared to where you want to be, is significantly lower than where it should be for where you want it to be. And so when I'm talking to people out in the world and they ask me, hey, how do you find people to work with? That's one of the questions I ask. Hey, how's your retention rate doing,
oh, okay.
particularly compared to other people in your industry? And that is the tell, which is, hey, there's a reason people are leaving. And your exit interview is not the time to try to figure out why, because they're
Mm,
not going to probably tell you. And so it really, really is important to take that step back and start asking, what are we doing to create a culture where people want to stay, that they feel are part of something, that they feel valued? And a lot of times, company owners and leaders will start pointing to their employee benefits. Oh, we give a certain 401k match, or we give X number of PTO days. And I'll ask, okay, cool. What are your competitors doing? Most of the time, it's about the same thing. So I'm like, okay, well, that's nice, but your competitors aren't losing as many people. What else are you doing? And so, again, when you start asking that question, then you either find out there is not a culture of support and there's not a culture where people feel valued. Or another common pattern I see is a culture of burnout, where, especially with your hypothetical situation, they're growing. They just went from 100 to 300 people. And that was potentially on the backs of those first 100 people doing more and more and more work, especially as they trained new people, got them up to speed. And
right.
so a lot of culture of burnout too. And so we'll talk about prioritization and we'll talk about what has actually come onto the plates of your people, especially your leadership team, or that certain level of people that are leaving. And so those are kind of two of the common ones. And then the third one is that general toxic culture where not only people are burnt out and they don't feel like valued, you have someone, typically a leader, that is creating a culture where people are just getting so much negativity. Either they're getting undercut, they're getting backstabbed, they feel like they can't trust anyone. And so sometimes it's identifying that person and saying, hey, do you know that your VP is literally like sending email blasts to your entire company berating someone for a failure? Do you know that your CFO literally told people, hey, you're underpaid and we're happy about that? And so you find those toxic situations is kind of that last one. And that's really where trust comes in because a lot of times there's been a relationship of that CEO or that owner to someone on that C-suite team, and they've known each other for a long time. They've worked together well, and to come in as an outside person and say, "Hey, do you recognize these patterns that are happening?" And so again, trust is really key, not only within a company, but anytime someone comes from outside and tries
Right.
to give some of that advice or to point out some of those challenges.
Yeah, that's really good. I remember going to a conference one time and they were talking about how sometimes you have really great people, they're in the wrong places. And
Yep.
once you move them to the right places, then you're going to find your team just really excels. So how do you know? Um, I guess this comes from where one person asked, I don't want to fire the people I've got because they're all real good workers. I just know that this person isn't this good at the front office. This person isn't this good at sales. And and I want to keep them in the company, but I don't know what to do with them. And so somebody come up with this card system, and everybody figures out what their strengths and stuff are, and found out person themselves was actually really better at the front desk, and the person at front desk was actually better at sales, something like that. It's kind of a weird example, but yeah. So do you ever run into anything like that where maybe you just need to move people to a different department, or they have strengths in something that the company and maybe themselves didn't even realize they had strengths in?
Yeah, exactly. That's why, again, I love strengths-based leadership, recognizing what we bring to the table, both kind of those static abilities and personality strengths, as well as the things we've learned and developed for ourselves over the years. And to your exact scenario, sometimes we start in a role and we realize this isn't really who I am or how I operate or how I think. And
Right,
especially when it's a smaller company and there's a lot of culture built up of trust of someone
right.
that's been for a while, but they're slipping. They're not doing the job that you need them to do. It's that conversation of, well, let's talk about maybe there's other opportunities. And the other thing to recognize is we're all human and we have seasons of life. And sometimes your top performer will be going through a season of life where they have a sick family member or some stress with a friend or a pet died, and we see that their performance dip, and but we forget that they've had months, maybe years of high performance. And so recognizing that season of life is also important, where sometimes with that season, we might now need to change and support them differently. The other thing I've really seen over the years working with people is with that season of life, we might change what our priorities are and what we want to try and do. I also am vice president of a software engineering company, and with it, we have monthly check-ins, and then we also have quarterly team check-ins to ask people not only like how are you doing, but what do you want to be doing right now and maybe 3 months from now and 6 months and a year from now? And continuing that conversation and not assuming, okay, I have an amazing software engineer who loves writing code 40 hours a week. They might not want to do that forever. And I actually,
Yeah.
2 years ago, had an amazing software engineer. She came in and said, hey, I kind of want to try this like client outreach thing. I see you go to these meetings and you get requirements and you talk to users and you make the plans. And I've sort of done that, but I kind of want to do like one big thing myself. And so it's okay, how do we build a process? How do we build an opportunity for you to try that out and try that new role and give you coaching in that moment through that process to set that person, her specifically, up for success because people change. And for her, she
Yeah.
wanted a new slight pivot in her career. And it wasn't, okay, go to the meetings and go figure it out and good luck. It was, hey, we're going to go actually to the meeting with you. We're going to give you some pointers and explain the history of this client, and we're going to explain how our thought process works. But then tell us what your thought process is. Tell us what you heard in the meeting. Tell us what decisions you want to make. And then let's discuss that. And so it's that give and take, and creating that plan allows people to be successful.
Yeah, I really like that because you're giving them an opportunity to stretch and grow, and they may have ideas that nobody else ever thought of. And it's like, oh, that was really smart, but you wouldn't have ever known that if you wouldn't have given them the opportunity. So while you're helping this person grow, you're realizing you're going to have to fill this vacancy that they're going to leave.
Yep.
So and maybe it's like, I don't want to hire anybody. I can't afford to do that right now. So how do you navigate that kind of situation?
I think being open and honest with that person, hey, you want more responsibility or you want to try something new, we want to set that up, but also we have the work you're currently doing. How do we have you maybe do
You
most
see?
of it still or some of it still? And how do we maybe pass some of that off to another team member, but not them feeling like they're doing your job? And so really bringing those conversations to the forefront is key. And that's really what I encourage. We really see a lot of times with leaders, they try to keep that under the radar and they kind of hide it from people, and they don't want to tell people, hey, look, like if we move you, we gotta do something else with your job. And
Right.
when you start having the willingness to talk about the challenges with those decisions, people understand a bigger picture. They want to understand a bigger picture. But when you don't give them the bigger picture, they make assumptions. They fill in the gaps with their ideas and assumptions. And unfortunately, a lot of times those can be the completely wrong assumption. And so for me, it's tell them more. It's always better to be more open, honest, and forward about the thinking about the plan. And that's how you build alignment. And then people are sometimes willing, hey, okay, I'll work an extra 5 hours a week if it gives me that latitude to start working towards a new position.
There you
So,
go.
yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing too is maybe once they understand that, you really can't afford to have them move out of their position is do some things on your own. So you're not really doing it with company time. You're still working on this. And while you're working on things that you're trying to, advance in, maybe in the company somebody who's hasn't done what you've done, but they know how to do it. And then you can go to the boss and say, look, I've been taking some classes. This really sounds interesting. I'd like to do that. I see what you're doing. I think I can be a benefit to you. I don't want to leave my place vacant. So here is whoever over here who can work those extra 5 hours a week that it will take me to do the training with you. And they're willing to do that. And they're not going to be slacking off of what they do now. So maybe a little bit of forethought of what's going on. But I love that. Letting your employees be informed of how the company's working, what's going on with it. And I realize when you get to be, a few hundred employees, that might be a little more difficult to do. So what do you do in that case?
Yeah, it's trying to find the right balance of information. As
Okay.
an example, for our engineering company, every year we do a quick exercise of, oh, our insurance for healthcare is about to go up 10%. They're going to kill us on premiums again. And we'll then do a quick like exploratory of what other options are out there. And then if there's some comparable ones, a couple of times we've gone to our employees and said, hey, look, we're thinking about switching healthcare providers. Will this impact the doctors you're able to go to, any of the specialists? And a couple of times we found out it was actually going to impact 3 or 4 of our employees. Now, at the time, we were only about 25, 30 people, so about 10%. But for us, because we did not really want to impact those employees, we decided to say, hey, look, we're not changing healthcare providers, But FYI, just for everyone to know, our premiums that the company is paying is going up 8%. You all are still, we provide completely covered healthcare. You all are still good, but our premium's going up. And why we do that is again to bring that awareness of the decisions and trade-offs that we're making as a leadership team and what we're trying to do for our employees. We could have easily just said, oh, cheaper insurance policy, 5% less. Let's just go to that. But then we don't know the impact. We are
Right.
making decisions just on that bottom line. And then we realize that we actually might we would have lost someone had we changed healthcare providers. And so to your question, it's finding obviously the right balance. So when you get to a 500 person, 1,000 person company, you're not going to go through probably the exercise of, hey, tell us all your doctors, but you could at least make a calculated decision of, okay, if we switch, we're probably going to impact a certain number of people. And
Mhm.
then saying either which way, hey, we switched because it saves us 10%, and now we can give that back to you all in salary, or hey, we are paying 10% more. We're still going to give you pay raises and all that, but you might be wondering why you got 3% instead of 4% or something like that. And that's part of the math.
Right.
So again, bringing that awareness up to people and the right balance.
Yeah, and that's important, I believe. And a lot of times when you're more vulnerable to your own employees, I think your own employees are more willing to work with
Yeah.
you. Or maybe they say, hey, I've got a cousin who does this, or my brother sells insurance. Let me talk to him, see what he's got, and maybe present that because he may have a way better deal and nobody knew that.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, especially if they're going to start hurting that bottom line that it's going to impact the employee's paycheck. Everybody wants a full raise. You're going to start cutting out my how much I'm going to get in my raise. Well, maybe I need to do a little footwork and see what I can find that might help the company better. One thing that I was always told when I was growing up, I was still in high school, from grade school to high school, was the better you do, the better the company does. And the better the company does, the better you do. And I know in some companies that's not true. They just don't work that way. But
Yep.
for the most part, it does work that way. You know, you're helping the company, you're doing everything you can to make sure that it stays on top. They've got the best products. If something's not working somewhere, you bring it up to their attention, say, hey, this is not working as well as it used to. It used to work great. Things have changed. Now it's not doing so good. What can we do to make it better? Or here's an idea that I had that might make it better to get us back where we need to. I mean, everything is changing in the workplace and in the
Mm.
world
Yeah.
almost monthly. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just crazy how fast things are changing right now. So by helping your company stay afloat and do better, you're really helping yourself because a lot of times that goes into bonuses or it goes into higher raises or it goes into better advancements in the company.
Yeah, or even just getting to stay in a company where you've been working for 10, 15, 20
Yeah.
years with the people you like working with, who you've built friendships and relationships with. And you're spot on that it's that give and take, it's that ownership on both sides. And unfortunately, there are a lot of companies that only care about their bottom line, only care about giving bonuses to their executives. But there are also a lot of great companies that when you can build that ownership together, that's how you continue to succeed and grow and make not only a culture where people feel valued, but they want to stay a part of it for their entire career. And it's so cool. Like, I love when pretty much every year we've had good years, and it's like, oh, cool, we can give you a 6% or an 8% or a 10% pay raise because we've worked together to serve our clients, serve the mission, and then we
Awesome.
can feed that back to you. And it's always a joy. June is when we send out all of our personalized letters of thanks with pay raises. And so we were
Oh,
doing this
nice.
actually the past couple weeks, getting all those ready to go.
That's got to be so much fun.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and then we also take the time to write, not long, but like a paragraph or two of their contributions of hey, not only do we value you by giving you more value, but also we see you, we understand the impact you had, and that's why we're so grateful that we get to continue to work with you.
Yeah, that would have been really cool to gotten a letter like that to say, wow, really? All
I
right,
still have
I'm
my
going to
stack
do
of them
better now.
every year I keep mine.
Yeah, no, that's great. I remember working at a factory one time, and Christmas is when we always get the bonus, and we knew the company had done really well that year. And in fact, there was one couple that had put a down payment on a house. They figured they were going to get their bonus so they could make up that down payment and make some of the other payments, the first couple of months to go through. And which at the time I thought I would never spend money I didn't have, but we do that with credit cards, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
the world has really changed. But anyways, going back to that, and then the company said, we can't give anybody a bonus this year
Mm,
over the whole, they tried to say it was some excuse about something that, early in the year there was some kind of OSHA thing that happened, and people were shocked and they were
sure.
dumbfounded. Some people went crying out of the building because they were
Yeah.
just devastated because they really relied on that end of the year bonus. And it was really shocking to see how
Mm,
people reacted and to hear the comments people made. And it's like, why would you want to stay with a company that they know
yeah.
the upper people got paid, they know the family got paid, but nobody else got paid? And it was a real shock. Now,
Mm,
if they would have come to the employees beforehand, 2 months or a month before, and said, look, we
yeah.
really got hit hard by OSHA. We're not going to be able to give out the bonuses like we've given every year. Then people wouldn't have been so reliant on it. They would have said,
Yeah.
okay, we know what we can do now. But to just spring it on them, I mean, that was really hard.
Yeah, that's so sad to hear. And
Yeah,
most likely, sure, had they told people a couple months before, might have still lost some people. Productivity might have
right.
dipped for some people, but they would have built trust. And that
Yep,
trust would have probably kept more people than probably left at the end of the year. I could only imagine the retention numbers where it's like, okay, we're okay, and boom. And then even the
yep,
people that stayed, their productivity and boom, because they don't have trust anymore. They feel like, why am I going to work if I'm not going to be told I'm getting a bonus or not? So yeah, that's
right, right.
and, and that's the thing that I really stress that we think as an executive, as a leader, we're protecting the company or we're protecting ourselves by delaying that information, by
Mm.
saying, we'll deal with the fallout in December, but you're creating so much more fallout.
Right,
And that's where you instantly lose trust and you can't really repair a lot of that after the fact.
right. Yeah, and in your smaller towns, most people can't go anywhere else to get jobs. So they figure, oh, we're fine because they
Mm,
can't go anywhere else. But, the society is more mobile now than it has been.
yeah, that's
And it's
definitely true.
not that, I mean, it's still kind of a big deal, but, moving to another state, moving to another town is quite accessible now. It's not as tough as it used to be.
Yeah, that is definitely a good point that
Yeah.
our culture and our connectivityness has really changed over the years. And luckily, it does create more opportunities for a lot of
Right.
people. And people aren't really stuck being like, well, yeah, to your point.
Well, I do not want to end the show on a sad note.
No, definitely not. Definitely
Some
not.
good news here. What are some really great things that you help people with, Joe? What are some of the biggest wins you've seen in companies? Small
Biggest wins.
companies and the larger ones.
Well, I'll talk personally about my engineering company because it brings me great pride. So we're a little over 11 years old. I've been with them 11 years. Of our company, over a quarter of our people have been with us for over 10 years, and
Oh,
over half
wow.
our company have been with us for 5 years. And I say that obviously to pat ourselves on the back a little bit, but to give a case in point that there are people out there that want to create cultures of success, of caring, of alignments. And that's where I love finding those people that just need a little bit of help. And if it's not me, there's so many books, there's so many TED Talks, there's so many resources like this podcast out there. And my hope is if you just get that one little nugget and you use that to drive your business, drive your leadership, drive your life forward, the impact you can have can be so substantial. And so many times we don't know the impact we have. But every
Right.
time I have a book back on my counter with all the letters and cards that I've gotten from people over the years that I've coached or I've worked with, or I've like even just dealt with in passing that have apparently I've had an impact on them. And to get that is always so meaningful. And so what I always encourage people to do is just what's that one small thing you can do every day to have an impact because that's what is going to then ripple effect through the world. And then the other last thing I'll say is also we get so stuck in our own lives. You can change your life, you can change your perspective. It again just takes those small, steady steps. And I know through your podcast, I know through so many things out there, if you're just willing to listen and grow a little bit, even me personally, as I talked about, I was that shy, quiet, petrified kid in high school. And I'm so proud of who I am now because of that willingness and ability to grow and to push myself and get out there.
Yeah, ability to get out of your own way and say,
So
all
true.
right, I'm the one that's working this entrepreneurship. So I'm
Yeah.
the one who needs to make sure that I'm not causing the problem or my mindset is not causing the problem. Um, and go through there. And I love that you work with people. You're willing to ask the questions. I had one podcast where the gentleman said, my son calls me nosy because I'm asking hundreds of questions, but I need to know what's going on with these people so that I can help them
Sure.
get to where they want to go. So don't be afraid to answer questions when Joe's asking. Don't be afraid to ask him questions and find out what he's got going on. I mean, it's a great example that you have your own company that you're using these things that you're teaching other people to do. You're using in your own company and it's growing and it's getting bigger and better. And you've got employees that are staying with you. I mean, that's a really great thing. It's so easy to leave and go do something else if something's not quite right.
Yeah.
Um, so you're definitely building confidence in your employees. You're building, I I don't want to use a word that they're going to stay there forever, but you're building this consistency that they know they're going
Sure.
to be taken care of. And if you like what you're doing, why would you want to leave? It's a good thing to have
Exactly.
be where you
Consistency.
are, you know. But
Exactly.
that's great. So Joe, tell us how to get a hold of you. Tell our audience where they can find you and maybe help them get their company to the next level or just get over this little edge that they have right now.
Sure. The easiest way to connect with me is on LinkedIn. Definitely connect with me there. I love posting content. And for me to know that you found me through Wisdom on the Front Porch, when you connect with me, send me a DM with the word wisdom, and that's what
Nice.
how I'll know.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. And thank your audience for being here. You can always check us out at wisdomonthefrontporch.com. And Joe, thank you. We're also on YouTube. Pretty soon we're going to be live. That'll be really good. So thank you for being here. Thank you for all of your scarves in the background. I thought, oh man, I should have brought all my scarves out, but no, I like yours. We're
Thank you
all
for
the same
having
team,
me.
so yeah, yeah. So all right, thanks, Joe. Thanks for being here, and thank your audience, and we'll see you next time on Wisdom on the Front Porch.
Thank you, my Front Porch friends and neighbors, for pulling up a chair with me and my guest today on Wisdom on the Front Porch. Now, if you've got value from this conversation, would you do me a favor? Leave a quick review, then share it with someone you know who could use some inspiration. It helps more friends find their seat on the porch. And hey, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss what's next. Until then, keep the porch light on for new wisdom every time you show up. Your seat's always here for you on the porch.